And we are live. What's up, guys? Welcome to the Fresh Fit Podcast, man. I'm here with Kris Krohn, man. I'm really excited for this interview, guys. Let's get into the intro, baby. All right, what's up, guys? Welcome to the Fresh Fit Podcast, man. Fresh is probably stuck in traffic somewhere, so we're just getting the interview underway. You guys will see his black ass walk in at some point. But, guys, real quick, rumble.com/freshfit. Check us out over there because you guys know we're probably going to get canceled off of YouTube anytime now, but it is what it is. Check us out over there. But fuck all that. We got a special guest in the house who I've been waiting to interview for a while. As you guys know, I'm really big into real estate, and I've learned quite a bit of the things I know from this man right here, Kris Krohn. Man, I know who you are, but I want the people to know who you are. Can you please introduce yourself to the audience?
Yeah, Myron, absolutely. I'm super happy to be here, everybody. So my name's Kris Krohn, and my kind of story goes all the way back into college when I thought I was going to be a doctor, and I was just too dumb for that. I literally couldn't figure out chemistry, retook the class, got a worse grade, and learned that whatever I was going to do with my life was not going to be found from a university. And basically, by the time I did get a degree, so my mother-in-law wouldn't kill me, I had built a small portfolio, 25 homes. I had mentors that taught me how to do it. I had a $12,000 a month passive income. And while all my buddies went to go get jobs, I was quitting my college job and I was done. And it was a cool time in my life because I really got to start asking okay, who am I and what do I want to be about? What do I believe in? What do I want to do with my life? And that was 15 years ago. And since then, it's been, I've done a couple $1 billion worth of real estate in the single family game. I've enjoyed that. I own hundreds of businesses. So I'm in the private equity space. And then outside of that, I've just been on this great quest nearing, around the corner, hitting that big B number of being billionaire. And my wife and I, we have a foundation. We do a lot of really cool things in the world. And that kind of sums it up. Other than that, I love this whole balanced approach to life, which just says, and this is what I love about your podcast, which is you should be prioritizing your health, your relationships, and your wealth. And if you got all three of those going on and there's a little bit of progress every day in each of those categories, then you're going to wake up in a few years and look back and say, I love the person I've become. And that's really what the message is that you can have it all.
Absolutely. Just like your book. And I want to also say, so we talked about this a little bit right before going live, and a lot of people know you as a real estate guy, but the reality is you're a humanitarian, athlete, bodybuilder. Can you talk a little bit about the other things that you do as well?
Yeah. So, my wife and I, we got 4 kids. And so all of our children's education is customized. We bring teachers into our home. They're out of the public sector. We don't even go private. It's really just saying, hey, we don't believe in how rapidly the world is changing that school system can prepare them. So kind of starts really with our family right at the heart of things, with just doing things really, really different. And then part of that is, well, what do we want to teach our children? We're teaching them emotional intelligence. We're teaching them entrepreneurship. We're teaching a different perspective on life. Outside of that, my wife and I are both competing in a couple months. This will be my 3rd competition. I'm going to be in the men's physique. I'm 6'4", so I'll be in that weight class and age class. And I took 2nd last year at the show. I'm really gunning for 1st. I'm now in my last 10-week cut, so I've got to strip off 4 more % body fat.
What state is it going to be held in? Where are you going to compete?
This is going to be Salt Lake at the Grand America.
Okay. City. Sweet. And how old are you? Just so that people know that they need to get in shape too. How old are
you? 43.
There you go, guys. There are no excuses. No excuses.
I'll tell you what, I'm going to be 144 years old. I'm going to be the strongest, fittest, fastest, great-great-grandfather, period, on this planet. Too many people die because they give up. They give up on their bodies. They give up on everything. And you can't do that.
Yeah, no, and that's how it's got to be, because a lot of people have the excuse, oh, I'm old, I don't know, I can't get in shape, I don't have time to go to the gym. I mean, how many doors do you control? 6,500 different?
6,500 and counting, yep.
6,500 tenants, but he's finding a way to go to the gym, guys. What's your excuse?
Oh, dude, the crazy thing is the crazy thing is we live in this crazy busy world, but it's all a lie. Like there's time for every inspired choice. There's time for everything we're supposed to be doing. And frankly, if people are doing it right, they should never be busy. There's a total wealth game out there where you can keep hiring and outsourcing everything. So you keep reclaiming your time and live your best life.
Absolutely, man. That is huge with, hiring people and getting people to do things for you that you don't necessarily want to do so you can buy back that time. Can you tell us a little bit about, you've been doing some humanitarian efforts as well with Ukraine. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So my wife and I, our foundation is called the Krohn Breakthrough Foundation, and it's all based on emotional intelligence. I created a system for helping people break through their limiting beliefs, and for years held seminars and had thousands go through this model of helping them basically evaluate their mindset, evaluate the limitations that they impose upon themselves, create awareness of them, and then how to change it. So our foundation basically provides breakthroughs for people for free that are, deeply in need. But there's a humanitarian aspect of that where last year we felt inspired. We did 2 mission trips to Ukraine. We were delivering, 300,000 gallons of clean water for the destroyed infrastructure there, fed over 6,000 people. And then of course, doing evacuations. We go in with our special forces, ex-special force friends, and we go into the highly disputed territories, and the people that are too late to get out, when the bombs are firing, we go in and literally pull them out. So we've had 2 missions, but frankly, the work in Ukraine, helping them fight for their freedom, is happening every single day. And we'll be going back in just a couple months again for our next trip.
Bam. All right, man. You're making things happen. So guys, I just wanted you guys to see that side of them as well. It's not just, the soon to be billionaire in real estate, but also humanitarian, author, father, bodybuilder, athlete, competitor, etc. Many different hats. So I got a question for you real quick, and we'll get into the real estate stuff. As you know, right, the markets are kind of tumbling all over the place, right? We got the stock market hitting lows. We got cryptocurrency crashing. Real estate took a little bit of a dip, etc. Can you give the people kind of, I guess, a bird's eye view of what the market is right now and what you predict may happen in the future?
Sure. Yeah. So first of all, this is one of the most exciting markets that we've seen in a decade. I have waited 10 years for the market to do exactly what it is right now. In some ways similar, but very different from 2008. 2008 was the best real estate market we had seen. I get that most people lost their shorts and homes went back to banks, but when everyone is selling, you should be buying, right? And so we went in and bought thousands of homes in Vegas, Phoenix, in Florida, and homes that were selling for $300,000-400,000. We were picking them up for $100,000 from the banks. We rented them for 5 years, and then we sold those suckers after making an insane killing on them. So you look at the market right now, and we are missing 3.8 million homes. And yet, why have prices cooled off? It's because the government keeps printing trillions of dollars and raising the debt ceiling and doing choices, things that we just can't afford. And because of that, we've got inflation on the rise. And the only way they can control it, they've got only one economic lever left, if you follow Ray Dalio, that's interest rates. So interest rates are really high. That doesn't negatively impact investing for us. Actually, our ROI is higher because what we have is a cooling, right? We've gone from last year, 25 days on market to 44 days on market. And ultimately, it means that we're shifting into a buyer's market finally. And I'm starting to get tens of thousands of dollars off some of the houses that I'm buying right now. So ROIs are like up big time right now. And I hope that the government keeps printing trillions of dollars and making things worse, because they're going to create a great opportunity for some cleanup that we are in serious need of.
Yeah. A lot of people look at inflation and say, oh man, inflation, things are bad. What's going to happen here? You actually have spoken very positively about how inflation can actually help you as a real estate investor. And I've talked about it on my podcast to a degree, but can you explain to people real fast how inflation actually helps you when you're in the game of real estate?
Yeah. So imagine this, right? I got a little prop here. I got $50,000 of cash, and I can take $50,000 and buy $50,000 of stock. But in real estate, I get a 5-to-1 leverage game, and the banks love to lend on collateralized real estate. So $50,000 will buy me $250,000 worth of real estate. So if you have soft assets right now when there's high inflation, if you have 401ks, IRAs, stock market investments, crypto, what happens in the soft markets? They crash with inflation. So the rate of inflation is weighing down on them. But it does the opposite on hard assets. So we're talking about physical property and the opposite. So when that devaluation occurs, we experience the opposite impact, but at a 5-to-1 ratio, which is why during the pandemic, during a 2-year, post-pandemic for a 2-year period of time, we saw a nationwide 41% increase in real estate. And we've seen a very tiny correction only in certain markets. And the moment they drop interest rates again because they've controlled inflation, you're going to see the properties skyrocket all over again. The hedge funds know this because collectively they're putting billions of dollars. Top 5 hedge funds, 13 billion being deployed right now. Blackstone actually just committed another 50 billion. It's projected by the end of this year that 3% of all single-family homes are actually going to be corporate owned in REITs.
Yep.
Which creates a really scary scenario. They're by 2030, they're saying that up to 40% of all homes will be actually corporately owned.
Yeah, and they're not talking about this, how Blackstone and these big companies are actually running around buying as much real estate as they can, right? As the markets are tumbling, they're buying real estate because it's a hard asset that actually it hedges very well against inflation. I think it's one of the best hedges against inflation. Do you have something, Fresh?
Yeah, question for you, Kris.
Fresh, how we doing, brother?
Not bad, man. So obviously, you're a YouTube star. You did your thing back in the day, and of course now as well. But what do you say to people that say, you know what, is now the best time to buy real estate, or should they wait? What would you say to that?
Oh, that's a good question. Get that one.
So 78% of the population right now doesn't believe that now is a good time to buy real estate.
Yeah.
And they are 100% wrong. Like right now, if you're looking for better deals, now's the time to buy. But I have to clarify that, because the reason why I make money when the market goes up and I make even more money when the market goes down is because there's only a certain type of real estate that I particularly do that produces a homogeneous, very dependable, reliable ROI. And that is a short-term buy and hold on single family homes below the median in the best markets. And what I just said there was a formula, right? Single family below the median, best markets. And so I'm buying, for the most part, brand new homes, especially from builders that are panicking right now because developers, they're eating it hard right now. And so there's only 5 markets out of 324 nationwide that I invest in. And I do that because what I'm doing is I'm looking at all the macroeconomics. I'm looking for where is population growing, where is migration, where is the economy booming, 10 different factors. And then once I select the market, then I get niche down into the zip code, the right kind of the neighborhoods, the right kind of the railroad tracks, where I can start selecting homes. And these homes, for the last 3 years, my real estate's performing at 34% a year. That means that your money doubles every other year. So there's a strategy on that particular kind of real estate, and definitely getting deep discounts.
So, Kris, you threw a lot there, and I actually started writing down some notes here so that the audience can better understand what you said, because you threw a lot of game out there, and I really want them to get this. So why single-family homes in particular?
Okay, so when I listen, I was an idiot, would have never made it to medical school, but when I took my stats class, supposed to be a weeder class, and I was the #1 student out of 200 kids there. I never did my homework once. I love numbers. Like, it's probably a little disturbing if you sat in my head for a second. Everything statistically pans out into something. And so I nerded out on real estate at the start of the game, and I said, I'm going to write a custom algorithm comparing all 30 strategies against each other to really figure out which one's best. Because you're going to have Grant Cardone that says multifamily, and you're going to get, Carlos Reyes that's talking about wholesaling and flipping. And I'm like, well, why am I doing single family? Well, there's 30 big strategies out there. And with this strategy, the reason why we start with single family is because it is the real estate that is most accessible to a new investor that is in highest demand.
Bam.
Is it right there. And what that means is it's going to rent the fastest. It's going to move the fastest. And it's because it's what people want the most of.
Yeah. Now, you also mentioned buying it at below the median. Can you explain that to the audience, what that means and what that number and price point is at this point?
Yeah, it's a game of understanding risk. Like right now, I have in front of me, this is right here. This is the current nationwide median, right around $400,000. The nationwide median we are not on target to be 400,000. It should be sitting closer to $290,000 to $300,000.
Yeah.
For the last 65 years, we can track nationwide growth, and that appreciation is 4.65%. And what that means is if in 2 years we went up 41% and it was supposed to be each year an average of 4.6, well, 4.6 and 4.6, that's sitting right around that 10-ish, 9-ish% mark. We appreciated 31% more than we were actually supposed to. So when I say buy below the median, I don't buy below the new median. I buy below what the median is supposed to be. My average purchase price around $250,000. Now, here's why that's important. Let's just say that I'm like, oh, I'm a real estate investor and I buy like an $800,000 house. Got news for you. When the market crashes, 800 turns into 500 real fast. 500 turns into 350. 350 turns into 3. 300 turns into 280. When I buy 250, my correction is like driving in the car and it's like, wait, did you feel that? Nope, I'm in a Cadillac. I did not feel the bump in the road. That's buying below the median. It's another hedge against risk.
Okay, so the median right now in the United States is $400,000 for a single family home. We're talking about a 3-2, right? Traditional.
We're talking about a 3-2, 4-2, and it should be honestly around 290 to 300. 290
to 300, and you're buying at that $250,000 range pretty much for most of your deals to ensure, regardless of what happens, you're good. Now,
so if the market goes down, I don't care. By the way, all I'm going to do is see my rents go up. So that's going to affect my ROI positively. So I found a really weird little box that when I buy in, that we can win in really astonishing ways. And I got partners that watch my social, they'll watch a million videos, and then from all over the world, they'll basically come and join me and partner with me. And I just say, hey, I'll make it hands-free for you. And I'll just go out there and I'll manage it all, do all of the work and deploy my team. And that's just a service that a lot of people really enjoy is they want the benefits of real estate investing, but I don't want to go to Home Depot and they don't want to get on a plane and they don't want to talk to tenants and they don't want to get the toilet phone calls,
Now, the other thing I was going to say, because you threw a lot of game out there. The other term you mentioned, which I want the audience to understand, you said is you buy the homes short-term hold. Can you explain what a short-term hold is and why you employ that strategy?
All right, so let's talk old school, less optimized real estate. Someone buys a home as a real estate investor, like, I'm going to rent this and I'm going to rent it for 30 years because in 30 years, guess what's happening? It's paid off.
Yep.
And that's their game plan. And I'm like, listen, in the first 5 years of holding that property, you've probably doubled, maybe tripled your money that's in it. If you sell it and trade it for 3 homes, instead of trying to pay it off, your ROI will massively accelerate. Because think about this math. Let's just say I got $50,000 right here that was sitting in a 401k or IRA equity in a home. And they're like, I'm not an investor, but I think I'm going to try it. So if they can buy a home and average just a basic 25% annual ROI, then that money is going to double in less than 5 years. So in 5 years, if they sold the home and traded it for 2, and now they're earning 25% on each home, they're now earning 50%. 5 years later, 100%. When they double it again, 200%. When they double it again, 400%. The reason why after 20 years, people are making 1,000% annual ROI on their original dollars, and the cash flow is tax-free and so big that they're never going to sell, especially since they can actually roll it forward in the 1031 exchange. And basically the government allows them to defer taxes indefinitely. This is where after 2 generations, someone's worth, $500 million or $1 billion. And that's the kind of legacy that I love helping people figure out. It is a long game. It's definitely not the get rich now strategy, but it does mean that you're going to wake up in 20 years and say, whoa, freaking millions of dollars knocking on my door that just showed up. And it was all passively going on while you were asleep.
Wow.
So you buy the property, you hold it for 5 years, and then what you do is you enjoy that appreciation, the cash flow that you got from it, the tax benefits, and then you go ahead and sell it, and you take that newfound appreciation and use it to invest in 3 other homes.
You got it. I guess I'm just going to roll it forward and multiply it so I can accelerate my compound interest.
Okay.
Nice.
Now, you also mentioned something about 25% ROI, and I know that the audience probably, they're probably thinking in their head like, whoa, how do you get a 25% ROI in a house? Like, this is not possible. This is cap. How is this going on? Can you explain to the people where that 25% ROI comes from?
Yeah, 100%. So first of all, return on investment means you put money out, what's coming back. And let's just take a look at the 3 basic ROIs in real estate. When I put this $50,000 out on a property, it's going to produce a cash flow. So let's just say it's producing $500 a month back. Well, that's $6,000 a year. Put 50 out and have 6,000 comes back. That's, let's just say, that's a single digit ROI. Call it a 6% cash on cash return. That's part of the ROI. Then the house appreciated and that market went up 5% that year.
8% is what you got, basically. We'll say 8.
Perfect. Well, thank you for doing the actual math.
Yeah, I went out of calculator real quick.
But good.
Yeah.
I love it. So we got 8% there.
Yeah.
And then next, I see you smart. Myron, I see you coming. This guy's doing the real math. Okay, we got 8% cash on cash. It's awesome.
No, that's still good though.
But that's just a start. That's just a start. So now we say, well, what's my appreciation ROI? Okay, well, again, I put 50,000 down. It's a $250,000 house. The market is growing 5% a year. But because I leveraged 5-to-1, my benefit isn't 5%. It's higher than that. And so that's probably going to be some type of double digit. And we could run the math on that.
It's actually 12%. It's actually 12%. My bad. 12%.
12. Perfect. Okay, he's doing that. He's double checking his math now. So there's an ROI on then the appreciation, and you can run that. So you can say, okay, let's actually do the math on the appreciation. If my $250,000 home went up 5%, that's 12.5 grand. If I'm 50 grand out, 12.5 grand is 25% of that. So I got a 25% on that. So I got 12% on my cash on cash. I got 25% on my appreciation of the market I chose. And then number 3, the tenant, I've outsourced the debt elimination to the tenant. Tenant pays that. And over that 5-year period of time, I'm going to average 5% per year on that. So I have 5% on the principal reduction, 25% on my appreciation. I got 12% on my cash on cash. Well, now I'm knocking on the door of high 30% annual ROI. This is like the last 3 years I've averaged 34%, where your money doubles every other year.
Yeah. And I think, and I wanted the audience to kind of hear that from you, because people think, okay, well, I just want to think about straight returns of me actually getting money back, but it's a multivariate analysis where you got the appreciation, you got the debt service being taken care of, you got the the tax benefits, etc. We didn't even talk about the tax benefits.
Dude, do you want to throw tax benefits on top of there? All that depreciation write-off. Here's the really cool thing. So eventually you work yourself into a position where you're paying more taxes than you would like. And what I can do is I can take all of the homes I bought last year and I can accelerate the depreciation. I can take basically 9-10 years of depreciation in a single year. So I could take a $250,000 house and personally write off, $70,000-$80,000 of that. Well, multiply that by 100 homes or whatever. And all of a sudden it's like, whoa, you're getting millions of dollars in tax benefits. I'm like, hello, that is why 90% of all, millionaires make it in real estate.
Yeah. And we could definitely talk about the tax benefits too, with depreciation and cost segregation, et cetera, because that's when things really start to get crazy. And that's what it's really how the wealthy stay wealthy, man. It's
tax-free cash flow forever, for life, and growing.
So I like that you do single family, because most people say the multifamily, that's their stitch.
Yeah.
But you made it in single family. What would you say the biggest mistake people make coming into the game, I would say as a beginner into real estate?
Well, can we first talk multifamily?
We can talk about the plus and negatives of both, because you're one of the few. That's why I want to get you on, because I was like, this is someone that's like an expert with single family homes, when everyone else is saying more doors, but you're like, no, let's do single family. And I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah.
So people get so committed to strategies. They're like single family versus multifamily versus this versus that. I'm like, we shouldn't be talking about the strategy. We should be talking about the ROI. The reason why I don't do multifamily, I do some, but the reason why majority wise I don't is because I can't get the ROIs to pencil out the way single family. The reason why people turn to multifamily and graduate is because they're like, bro, I'm tired of buying single family homes and all this work. If we want to do this at scale, we got to lower the ROI and we got to go to multifamily, where we're now managing one project that has 300 doors on it. And I say, well, you can do that, but ultimately, aren't you investing for ROI? So I decided to do something weird. Success in life will be found when you can niche down to where you have no competition. And in my game, there's no one like literally in America that actually plays the game of single family at the level that we are, other than the hedge funds, other than like my nearest competition are the REITs, but that doesn't benefit the individual, which is what I'm about. The individual being a successful real estate investor and claiming their own fame.
Wow. Yeah. Because for example,
no one else does single family homes, dude.
Ben Mallet does complexes. Grant Cardone does complexes as well now. So you do a single family, which is crazy because that's unheard of.
Yeah. And it's very, and from when you think about it, who is he competing against? Like Blackstone, they're a huge company, but they don't have the social media reach that you have, right? So that's a very interesting way to go, because everyone that does real estate that's like on social media is like, they're always saying go big or go home, more doors. If you're not buying commercial, what are you doing, etc. So I think
look at this math for just a second here. So let's just say, because again, I'm committed to ROI. By the way, my book Have It All, which I got a link. I'll give that book for free to anyone that wants it. That book basically says this: take $50,000 from a 401k, IRA, equity in a home, whatever, and put it into real estate, and let's just say that you are averaging 25%, what happens? And by the way, I've never hit that low number. That's just my minimum. But if you were to hit that, what happens over 20 years? Well, the 50,000 turns into $4.3 million. Like, let's not talk strategy. Let's talk outcome. Let's talk result. Let's talk freedom. Let's talk about time. Or if we average my actual ROI of 34%, 50K over 20 years turns into $17+ million. Well, at the end of the day, that's why it's like, let's not talk strategy. Let's talk about what it's designed to produce. And so sometimes we get lost and we measure the wrong things. Who cares how many doors you have? Did you actually achieve the real goal?
So let's say, Kris, I'm a beginner. I'm in a chat. I'm hearing you talk and I'm like, you know what? I'm impressed, but I don't know where to start. I want to get to single family homes. How do I start? Do I do an FHA loan? Do I do a conventional? Where do I buy? Do I come to you? How do I get started on this journey?
So I think first of all, it's important to have a blueprint. And if anyone listening here were to go to freewealthgift.com, the freewealthgift.com has my book for free. And what it does is it produces a roadmap. It says, hey, you could literally start with nothing. You could even start deeply in debt. But if you follow this map, it's going to teach you 5 things that you should invest in. Real estate, only one of them. And blending these 5 ROIs can literally, I think it's the blueprint to become a billionaire, a multi-billionaire, but in the least, like the first million is nothing because it helps you understand, well, okay, society said 401k, IRA, S&P, all of these single digit games. And here's what people don't get. Einstein may have said that compound interest is the craziest financial invention of all time. But if you're compounding single digits, you have to be alive for like 400 years to appreciate the money. So it's meaningless. People don't understand that. They're sheeple, not people. We're so financially uneducated. It drives me nuts how people just aren't doing the math. They're like, yeah, my company gives me a match on my 401k, so I do that. My CPA this year says to put this thousands of dollars into my IRA so I can save $600 this year on taxes. I'm like, okay, stop. You're literally tripping over Washingtons. You're skipping the Benjamins. And so the problem there is that we're all single digit. In the book, I teach you, here's how you access double digits, triple digits, quadruple digit ROIs, and infinite ROIs. Get a blend of those, and anyone can be financially free in under 5 years. And it's just math, but people don't know where to look because they're not thinking about ROI. They're caught up in strategy. And that's the problem. Who cares about the doors? You get committed to the objective.
Wow. So, Kris, you've been very critical, and I think rightfully so, because I agree with you on this as far as like 401ks, IRAs, etc. Matter of fact, funny little story. When I left the government, the first thing I did was empty out my thrift savings account, or TSP, and I bought a house with it. And that house has been giving me way better returns than, I probably would have got keeping that money in the TSP, especially with the way the stock market is. And, you got people like, Dave Ramsey, who teach people, hey, invest in your IRA, invest in your 401ks, et cetera, which is, it's pretty sound advice for most Americans. But listen, we're not just trying to, be above the water. We're trying to create wealth here. Can you talk about the, I guess, inherent flaws of 401ks, IRAs, and the traditional way of looking at money and saving?
Well, think about it for just a minute. The average person at 65 years old in total retirement of 401k and IRA has $206,000. So, okay, cool. I'm going to peak my earnings at $93,000 at 55 years old, and then it's downhill from there. So now I've accustomed myself to basically $90,000 a year. Parkinson's law says I'm going to spend plus or minus 10% of that income, and I have $200,000 at retirement plus equity in my home. What am I going to do? Live for 2 years retired? And then what are you going to do when modern medicine is keeping you alive, not for 7 years, but decades? People are living longer. If you study the futurists and what the advancements in health and medical is just crazy right now. So people don't get it. They're underprepared by decades for the future that they actually need. And the problem is, hey, just put your money in a 401k because you're getting a match. I'm like, does it make you money? No. Does it pay you something every month? No. What if you try to touch it? You get penalized. And so everyone is just taught to think that but look at the stats. Even if you're a way above average earner, cool. Your 401k has 400 grand in it. Congratulations. Did you just buy 4 years for retirement? What about the other decades? And the thing is, it's too late then, because we treat money like it's our most valuable asset. Time is our most valuable asset. Facts. And people just haven't been taught to do the math. This is a future calculator. look at your rate of savings in your 401ks, IRAs, look at their 30-year average. People don't know that the 401k 30-year average, 5%, IRA 30-year average, 6%. The S&P 500s, like the top 500 blue chip companies, is the worst bet ever. They already made it. They're all plateaued, and you average them out, they're earning 8% a year. So all of a sudden you're blending 5, 6, 8%, 3% in an annuity, and you're sitting at a solid 4.9%. I'm like, you realize that 4.9% of $200,000 is not even $10,000. Can you live on 10 grand a month? Can you live on, 10,000 a year, $800 a month? Is that going to work? Because here's what society says. Aggregate all this money in an accumulation mindset, which is the disease. You're not supposed to accumulate. You're supposed to invest and then spend. And they always get stuck in the accumulation mindset. And so the problem with that model is that when you go to your financial planner and say, hey, I'm retired, I've got $200,000, the average amount. What can you do for me? And they'll say, well, if you don't want to destroy the principal by living off of it, and you want to only live off of the interest, we can give you 3.27%. It's the equivalent of $500 a month for the rest of your life.
Damn.
Add Social Security on top of that, and people should be like, freak out, panic, hello, ah! And it's why I don't understand why people are such a big fan of Dave Ramsey. I'm like, he's good for people that are financially irresponsible.
Yeah.
But for those that are ready to be responsible, stop accumulating. Stop it. You have to invest your money, which brings on risk, but at least you have a possibility instead of a guarantee of failure.
I like that you said basically put your future in your own hands rather than someone else's hands. And that alone gives you power, because you can buy real estate property and that can be your financial security in itself. And you get multiple, you're good to go. So question for you, Kris, real quick. I'm gonna give you two scenarios here, right?
Okay.
Money wise, let's say I have saved up over 2 to 4 years, 20, 30K of my own money, right? And let's say again, inheritance of 500K. How would you spend both of those money lots, knowing what you know right now, to get real estate, to get into it?
Okay, I want to make sure I understand. There's a $500,000 inheritance, yes?
Yeah, 500K. And then the other one's 30K. Now you say
and then you have 30,000. So you have a total of 530,000, right?
Well, let's do it separate. One person at 30K, one person.
Okay, I got it. Two scenarios. I like it.
Yeah.
Let me drop this one first. When we say 90%, this is an actual statistic. 90% of all millionaires made it in real estate. 100% of all billionaires made it in private equity. So you have to tell me what your trajectory is. If you say, hey, Kris, I want $3 million so I can give it and annuitize it to my financial planner at 3% and have $100,000 a year to live off for the rest of my life, I'd say, how sad that you successfully saved $3 million and you only get 100 grand every year for the rest of your life and not growing. That's sad. That's a problem. But if you were to, so I would, when people come to my conferences, my live events, I am giving a blueprint for no less than $10 million and up, because by the way, anything under $5 million is selfish, because $5 million annuitized just takes care of you and your family. But if you're like, hey, actually, what if after I'm taken care of, I want to help other people? Well, then you need more than the basic $3, $4, $5 million. Now that's important because of your scenario that you gave me. I have to ask what your trajectory is. To the person that has $30,000, what I would do is I would encourage them to invest in a piece of property, undervalued, and within 3 or 4 years, double that money so they can start putting from the equity in the first home, house hack it, take 20% from it, and put it into the next house. Now these two houses are going to give birth, and one house, 30K start, over a 20-year period of time is going to turn into $4 to $17 million, depending on whether you're averaging 25 to 34%. You made it. To the person, on the other hand, that has $500,000, their game plan looks very, very different, because I would say, hey, let's allocate maybe $100,000, $150,000 into real estate, where we start off at 25, 30% ROI, take the other, $350,000. And I do a couple of different things. I would start leveraging into asymmetric risk of privately held companies that have 100x potential. I'd do something with that. But then I would also take the rest of it and I'd pop it in a franchise. Watch this model. If I keep it in real estate, I get legacy wealth, but very little cash flow.
Right.
If I put it in a franchise, I don't get crazy legacy wealth, but I could step into $100,000, $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 of annual income that grows into. And as an absentee owner in time, I have someone else running it. And now I have the income as if I had 50 properties. And so I always encourage people, hey, don't mistake me for the real estate guy, because it's super limited to just be that guy. I make way more money in private equity. I make way more money in owning businesses. I own hundreds of them compared to all the real estate that I own. So real estate is a foundation of wealth building. And on top of that foundation, you want to own businesses. But this is where people get stuck. And I'll put this final word in. People get stuck in thinking, well, I was a W-2, and I worked for the government, like Myron was saying, and then I did my own thing and I became an entrepreneur and I started a business. And it's this single stream thinking of a W-2 or own a company. And I'm saying, man, if you own a company, your goal is to make sure you've got healthy enough margins so that the earliest moment you bring management in and up to take over and get your time back. Because now if you have a business making you, $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 a year and someone's running it and your time's back, raise your standards. Your next company, you should make $500,000 to $1 million.
Nice.
You will not strike it big in business until you own your fifth company. So everyone gets stuck on the first one, married to it like a W-2, thinking this is it. And I'm like, cancel the altar, get divorced, bring someone in, outsource that thing, and then get your next one going and iterate to your third, fourth. By your fifth one, you're going to be so smart at business. That is when you hit it big. This is where 7-figure income becomes very normal. And once I was there, that's when I said, oh, let's own 100 of these. And that's what I'm doing right now is I'm building a portfolio of companies that I own and that I don't operate while I'm building all of this real estate. And right now, if you were to say, Kris, the race to billion, is it found in real estate for you? Is it found in private equity? In real estate long-term, man, that is the legacy game, but I'm funding it through speed right now through owning businesses. Wow. So I always recommend people have both. Don't choose, have both.
No, that's fantastic. Lot of game right there. Guys, like the video because you guys are not going to get sauce like that anywhere else. And I'm seeing another side that I didn't even know, because with having the real estate, I agree with you. That's definitely the legacy wealth, but owning businesses, right? And I really like your idea of start the business up, get it to a certain point, hire someone, get them in, you leave, and then you go ahead, you can scale something else up while they simultaneously run it and are able to keep it at, profitable margins for you. So you mentioned something about running franchises because of better cash flow. Are we talking about maybe getting a Subway? Are we talking about getting a restaurant? Are we talking about getting some type of business that's already kind of successful? And then buying it and then running it, or having someone run it for you? What do you mean exactly?
Yeah. So let's just say a person had, since Fresh likes two choices, I'll give you three choices. Yeah. Scenario A, start a business. Scenario B, buy an existing business. And scenario C, buy a franchise. Of the three, the least attractive is to start a business, because you're basically going through the bootstrap learning curve of doing everything from scratch. Yeah. Right now, until 2030, when we retire the last boomer, for the next 7 years, we are in the greatest wealth transfer of history, because 60% of those boomer businesses do not have a succession plan. And what they usually do is they don't broker it, they don't list it, they just let it die. So we have all of these businesses. You're going to be way more successful buying an existing business that someone spent years building up a book. They've got their financials, they have proof. Do that versus a startup. But also compare that to a franchise, because in the game of franchise, here's what's beautiful about that. Someone, again, went ahead, made all the mistakes, figured out all the things that don't work, and turned it into a cash cow money machine, saying, if you implement these systems and do it this way and get the guidance and help, you should produce similar results to these others. And in some ways, I prefer franchise even to a normal business, because that person built up a business, and a franchise was someone that said, well, we built up also a business, but after we franchised it, we now have 39 locations and 36 of them are working. And here's what we've learned on the 4 that aren't. And it's just about this game of, we know 82% of businesses fail over a decade. How do you increase your odds? Well, start with a mentor and start with someone helping you in an existing business. Start with something that has the blueprint that has proven to iterate successfully elsewhere.
Nice. Now I got a question about the franchise, but we got a quick message from our sponsor real fast, because Mo's been on me like, oh, we got to run this thing real fast. Guys, real quick announcement. Kris, can we run that ad real quick and then we'll get right back into it? We got some more to talk about, guys. We're going to talk about the real estate market. Is it going to crash? We're going to talk about franchises, making more money and not being a broke boy.
Sizes, and some of them are restaurants, some of them are in the health space, some of them are in the real estate space. And, startup can be as little as $20, $30, $40, $50,000. And it can also be, 100, 150 grand, or you do a master franchise where you own a territory, sell off a bunch of franchises and get royalties across the board. It's probably one of my favorite business models that I've ever seen. because my mission in life is to help the entrepreneur, and helping someone replace W-2 income, because 85% of people hate what they do for a living. 85%. It's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah. So helping them figure out how to double, triple their income, being their own boss, but have that absentee owner partial status where they're working maybe 5 hours a week. Well, all of a sudden that really creates opportunity for people to have that same experience I did on that day that I walked from my job, which was, what am I going to do with my life? And I think that our real life starts when we're not obligated to our responsibilities anymore, because the money's there. It's passive.
Gotcha. And what kind of returns can people expect with getting into a franchise with maybe that 20 to 50K that you said earlier?
You can see 100%, 2, 3, 4, 500% on your money.
Wow.
And it can even go, a lot of people will actually SBA, borrow money, bring in family. And that really drops you then into the quadruple digit ROI, where money is now doubling, measured in weeks and months instead of years with real estate.
You mentioned something interesting there with SBA, which for the audience there, that means Small Business Administration, guys. It's a government entity that gives small business loans, small business association. And they allow you to take loans a lot of times to start up a business, which is kind of crazy that you can get, especially after, the pandemic. They were allowing people, hey, you get a loan from us, 3% interest rate, whatever it may be, and you can take that money and go ahead and invest in a franchise and get that money back. And you're using other people's money.
Yep.
So,
yo, Kris, I'm not gonna lie, man. You just dropped so many gems there, bro. I'm gonna play this back and watch it, because you're right, bro. Real estate, it's a foundational, path. You make money slowly but surely. But the business side of it, bro, that's money right now. You could put into real estate and go even further.
Yeah. The franchise game is another one.
W.
Well, and ultimately for me, I'm always measuring 3 things: my passive income, my active income, and my time. And every year I always encourage people, double your income every year. And all you have to do is raise your standards. So if hey, there's 5 major business activities I do a year, then take a line of demarcation and take the most valuable one and say, I only say yes to this. I outsource everything else. So part of it is when I'm teaching people, save money, pay yourself first, they're always thinking, oh, I'm saving money for investing. I'm like, well, there's really 3 forms of investing. One is I'm putting it into an asset to grow. One is I'm putting it into other people to get my time back. And those are 2 of the very important things. So I love, like in my world, man, I don't book things. I don't go to a bank. I don't prepare my own food for my health nutrition journey. I don't drive anywhere unless it's a fast car and for fun. Like I my rule is, if you want something done right, don't do it. Always pay somebody else. And so if every year you're doubling your income, and I remember a couple of years ago, I took my wife on this journey where I'm like, hey, we got 4 kids. You're busy. I'm free. You're not. So we hired all of these staff to come in our home, aside from our teachers, to basically take care of the home, do the honey-do list, take care of all the errands. And my wife and I, for example, in my world, Wednesday is my wife's day. We get to just spend all day together. She's my best friend. Friday's my kids' day. Saturday's my day. Sunday's God's day. So I'm just working, I like to work my jams about 25 hours a week. If I work less than that, I feel like I'm no longer growing. If I work beyond that, I feel out of balance. And so ultimately, if you're measuring active, passive income and your time, you can always recuperate time by hiring other people, increase your standards, and then go at it again, but do something way more profitable. And that's the method of growth.
AKA financial freedom.
Yeah. You bought a private jet, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
I just bought my second one. Yeah.
So I remember the first one. Can you tell the people, because you had because you bought it, right? And you thought, like an entrepreneur, okay, I can use this to my advantage and rent it out. Can you tell the people what your mindset was when you bought that jet, and how you thought about getting it to actually make you money versus being a liability?
God's plan.
Yeah. So I'll let me back up for a second. Years ago, I was going to go hang out with a couple of my buddies that were playing video games, and they said, Krohn, you're last one to the party. And I live 20 minutes away, and they said, get the pizza. Well, when I got there, I was empty handed, and they're like, Krohn, where's the pizza? I said, it's coming. I called my assistant. She's getting it. And they started razzing me, and they're like, why didn't you just get it? And at that time, all those years ago, my time was worth about $5,000 an hour. And I explained it. I was like, 20 minutes of my time is worth $1,750. And they were making fun of me a little bit, and then they let it drop. But it stuck with me that most people don't know how to value their time. And if you don't know how to value your time, here's the mistake of most entrepreneurs. And by the way, this is an answer to the jet. But the problem with most entrepreneurs is they have a handful of activities where they're worth $500 to $5,000 an hour.
Mhm.
Then the rest of their time is $50 an hour, $30 an hour, $20 an hour. And I'm like, give up 90% of all of that and only do the most valuable thing, and then things that are twice as gooder. Like
Mhm.
that's it. That's the method for winning. And it's the same methodology on a jet. When I bought my first jet, it was like a little bit of a starter jet, 8-person, wanted to test it out. Loved it. Like we flew that thing, me and my family, for business and life and fun everywhere, even down to Ecuador. We had a really great time. And when I wasn't using it, I chartered it out. And the reason why I bought the jet is really actually a little bit more of a tax plan. So when you start paying, for example, millions of dollars in taxes, your CPA's advice on how to like save money becomes almost meaningless, because all they have are the typical tax deductions for business owners. When you get into family office level, for people that are worth a whole lot more, they employ a different group of people that are tax efficiency experts that understand things from conservation easements and jets and heavy equipment and all sorts of different deductions and credits at a level that, R&D tax credits, things that most people's CPAs are never going to tell them about. They just don't know. And so you take a look at that jet, and the second jet that I just bought, I get to write off 100% of the entire jet in the year that I bought it, which was at the end of last year.
Nice.
And that jet saved me $2 million. So this next year, I'm going to basically fly private for free, plus make money on the jet. So I've got ROI, fly for free, and I save millions of dollars.
Yo, Kris, I'm gonna get on you a little bit though. You could have said that jet over here.
Yeah, because and that's an example of taking something that would normally be a liability and turning it into an asset. And I wanted the people to kind of see that, because there's always a way to procure certain things that typically might be looked at as a liability and turn them into an asset. If you're creative enough, you got the right people behind you, and you know what you're doing. And I think Grant Cardone did something very similar, where he also bought a jet at the end of the year, right? And
it's always in December, and there are reasons why.
So you're making me feel like a broke boy. I bought a house cash, right? I'm thinking, oh yeah, I'm the best. Yeah, woo! I bought a house cash.
Brother, we got to have a game plan conversation. You don't pay things off.
No, well, hold on. I only did it because I agree with you. Buying a house cash is absolutely stupid. But I didn't have time to get a loan, so I bought it cash so I can get the deal done. So that I can go ahead.
You better got a home equity line of credit on that thing that you put to work.
I'm trying to do it. I'm trying to do a Heloc on it right now. Yeah.
Yo, Kris, I'm curious.
You know what? I'll tell you, I put a video out on YouTube that people just hated, and it's called 3 Reasons to Never Pay Off Your House. And man, I don't know why, but all the Dave Ramsey people, they come after me. They're like, don't listen to this guy. This is the worst advice ever. I'm like, hey, do you know when you're supposed to pay things off? It's when your passive income is greater than your ideal financial freedom lifestyle. When you got that, then you go ahead and pay things off. In the meantime, keep putting your money to work so that it doesn't perform at single-digit garbage.
Nice.
Absolutely. And that's very true, guys. Because like normally I tell people all the time, always get a bank, always get a loan, use other people's money to finance your asset, right? I bought it cash, guys. And I told you guys, one of the few times buying cash makes sense is because I didn't have time to get a loan to buy that home. And the guy that I was buying it from only would take cash. The house I did an appraisal after ended up appraising for $460. I bought it for about $390.
Nice.
So it worked out. But it worked out in that case. But in general, I agree with you 100%, Kris. Buying a house cash, absolutely stupid. You can
and Myron, I am really just razzing you because I have a ton of partners that have credit thingies. They have credit thingies, and so I have a pool where we'll just buy homes cash. But then I'll go back to a bank and we'll leverage them up to 70%.
Yeah,
and it's just a strategy. Messing with you, brother.
No. But you're right, though. Like, I agree with you 100% that buying a house cash outside of extreme circumstances, like I just described, where you can't get it any other way, you don't have time to get a loan because at the end of the year, you want the tax benefit, whatever, then you do it cash. But in general, always want to use other people's money. And real quick, Kris, because you mentioned the whole paying your house off is stupid. A lot of people in the chat might be like, whoa, what are you talking about, Kris? Can you kind of go into detail with the people why paying your house off is one of the worst advice you can give people?
Well, like, think about this. You have a limited amount of working years. Let's just say that it's 40. So let's create 3 levels of financial freedom. It starts with security, then it moves to financial independence, and then it moves to financial freedom. These 3 definitions are critical. Financial security means that you're out of debt. And you know what? It feels good, but you can't retire on no debt, because when you have no debt, that doesn't mean that you can eat food or travel or live the lifestyle you want. It just means that you don't have debts to service. So there's a feeling of security, but security is overrated, and it's also an illusion, because the person that says, I made it, I got 200,000 in my 401k IRA and my house is paid off. And I'm like, cool. When you run out of money in 2 years, you're going to do one of two things. You're going to get a job, or you're going to reverse mortgage, or you're going to sell your house. How does that feel? That does not feel good. You spent 40 years, 30 years working towards a goal only to find out that it was an illusion. So I'm not about security. And that's why I say, don't focus in the beginning of paying your house off. That is reverse order of success. Financial independence means my passive income covers all of my current lifestyle. So if you wanted to, you can be independent from a job. That is a level of freedom. But the highest level of definition is financial freedom, which means my passive income is equal or greater to my ideal lifestyle.
Bam.
And so right now, when someone says, well, I just want to get stuff paid off, I'm not trying to piss people off. I'm just saying you're doing things out of order. And to be successful, there's always a proper sequence. And here's where we get messed up. Rich people, how did they get rich? They own businesses. They sold and exited them, and they took their money. And guess what they want now? They want secure predictability. So they do put their money in 401ks. They put their money in IRAs. They put their money in the stock market. They want single digit because they're not trying to grow. They don't want risk. They just want a predictable 3, 4, 5% of their money. Well, remember, the wealthy represent a very small number of people. All the other poor people are now doing what the rich people are doing, except they never owned a business and got rich and sold it. They're out of sequence. They're flipped.
Yeah.
It's like, you don't get it. The greatest risk is taking no risk. So they have to learn how to say, oh, you're telling me that I have to claw the equity out of my house because it's prematurely paid off, and I got to put it in something so that I can actually have some kind of future.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I get that I can come across a little extreme, but everything I say is backed by math. Do the math. Do basic, simple ROI calculations. No one has an excuse to get to retirement and say, oh my gosh, I'm so surprised at where I'm financially at. It's like, no, you can't do that. We got Google a long time ago, and there's future value free calculators all over the internet. Put in your rate of savings, and it will tell you where you're going to end up. Then you should panic. By the way, do you mind if I share where I actually, like when I had my midlife crisis?
Please.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. Go ahead. Someone might learn.
Midlife crisis? That was when I was 20. Well, going back. My midlife crisis was when I was 22 years old. I was in my first year of college, and I had already met the love of my life. I married her. I was a sophomore, and that first year of marriage, I worked a telemarketing job. Not a dream job, right? Like I'm talking all day long to human beings that don't want to talk to me. But I was calling on all of these financial accounts for like these real estate gurus like Dolph DeRoos and Robert G. Allen, Robert Kiyosaki. I know he's been on your show. And I'm basically representing and trying to sell their programs. So I had a chance that first year to basically get to know their marketing avatar. And here was the weird thing. Everyone that was interested in their marketing in that day and age, these are all college graduates. They were in their mid-50s. They had all 401k'd, IRA'd, and house payer offed. Like that's who they were. That was their demographic. And I could see for the most part, their 401ks and IRAs had 50,000 to a couple $100,000. I could also see that their houses were half paid off and rarely paid off. And when I spoke to them, they were in financial terror, panic. And here I am in college. I'm like, I'm not going to be a doctor. I got to get a degree so my mother-in-law doesn't kill me. I don't know what my degree is going to be, but I'm talking to all these old farts 30 years in the future of me, and every one of them is financially struggling. And that's when it hit me like a ton of bricks. I'm like, doesn't matter what I do in college, I'm screwed.
Yeah.
You make 50, 60, $150,000 a year, you're screwed. And that's when I said, I have to break free from the system, and I'm going to have to go color very far outside the lines. And the philosophy I'm sharing is a byproduct that if you're playing within the normal economic model of society's game plan, you are financially doomed. You should know it because you're smart enough to do 5th grade math on a free calculator online, but most people are too scared to look at it. So they put their blinders on. They're like ostriches, head in the sand, and they ignore it. And I'm like, wow, you have risked everything. You have hurt your entire financial future because you are ignoring basic math facts.
Yeah, I mean,
Nice.
it's incredible. Like what conventional schooling teaches you to set yourself up for, the 4-4-4. Work for 40 years, 40 hours per week, to get 40% of your top years, and invest in your 401k. And quite frankly, I agree with you. People are living longer. That worked in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s for our parents, but it's not going to work today.
No,
especially with the way that the dollar is, the purchasing power is going down every single day. You know,
and it's also the worst part about it is not the lack of money.
Mm-hmm.
It's what happens to the deteriorating mindset. And I think it's one of the reasons why we age and die is because how can a person be hopeful and optimistic? Optimistic people live scientifically 11 years longer than normal people.
Oh, wow.
And how can you be optimistic when you've worked your entire life? You no longer are marketable. All the young people have your job. You can get really lame, low-paying jobs now. And all of a sudden, your lifestyle is forced to be cut in half, and then it gets cut in half again. And while money doesn't buy happiness, living near the poverty level in such a great nation fills a person with regret and bitterness. And these people become crotchety. And this is how they play out the last decade or two of their life. And it's just, that's the sad part is they fear and scarcity become normal for them. And they don't know it because they don't have any more choices and their time to make choices is over.
Yeah. And I've always said, this comes from a line from Fabulous, right? Money doesn't buy happiness, but it's a damn good down payment. And I've always, that it might not be the reason why you're happy, but it might lead to you being able to be happy in the future because it's able to at least mitigate some of the issues that you have.
Yeah. What scared me was the guy at Walmart, 70 plus years old, greeting you at the front. That scared the shit out of me.
That is scary. Yeah.
Chris, real quick, man. As most G's do, drink sparkling water. So shout out to you. I see that right there. Pellegrino in the building. But Chris, I'm a car guy through and through. Got the Lambo, got the Rolls. I'm curious, bro. What's your lineup, bro? Because obviously you're in the cars too. What's your lineup?
So I'm currently doing like a 25,000 square foot addition on my home, which is adding like 14 garages because right now I've got 4 garage space and I've got teens that drive. So like I've gotten rid of some of my fun cars. The current one I'm driving right now is a 6x6 Apocalypse with a 50 caliber Modus mounted on the top of it. And I fly my black flags behind it. And in the state of Utah, that works really well, by the way. It's a little bit of my way of saying that I'm not really happy with the current establishment and the people that are leaning towards a socialistic state. I think that we're losing our heritage. Capitalism has freed us almost entirely on the planet from poverty, technology, medical, the lives that are being saved. Capitalism got us there. But right now, this is one of the great political wars that we're facing is that now 1 in 4 people in America are consider themselves socialists. And I've lived 2 years in a socialistic nation that was post, in Eastern Germany, just only 10 years after it was communistic. I'm telling you, anyone coming from those countries, this country, they think that you're crazy. No matter how ideal you think life's going to be under that regime, you are going to forfeit all your rights and freedoms, your ability to create the life that you want.
You know what? I want to get your thoughts on socialism and communism and why it doesn't work. Real quick, though, Mo's yelling at me to go ahead and do the last. This is going to be the last ad, guys. I know y'all saying last one, I promise, okay? We got, because you guys know we're not going to be doing a couple shows because we're going to Columbia tomorrow, so we got to run it today. Yep. So, Chris, you got it ready?
Yep.
All right. Let's go. This episode of Fresh and Fit brought to you by ExpressVPN. This is Myron Gaines from the Fresh Fit podcast. I always find it annoying browsing the internet having to worry about hackers trying to pry their way into our browser, hoping to get their hands on our sauce. I know most of you are probably thinking, why don't you just use incognito mode? Let me tell you something. Incognito mode does not hide your activity. It doesn't matter what mode you use or how many times you clear your browsing history. Your internet service provider can still see every single website you've ever visited. That's why, even when I'm at home, I never go online without using ExpressVPN. It doesn't matter who your internet service provider is. ISPs in the U.S. can legally sell your information to ad companies. ExpressVPN is an app that reroutes your internet connection through their secure servers so your ISP can't see the sites you visit. ExpressVPN also keeps all your information secure by encrypting 100% of your data with the most powerful encryption available. Most of the time, I don't even realize I have ExpressVPN on. It runs seamlessly in the background, and it is so easy to use. All you have to do is tap one button, and you're protected. ExpressVPN is available on all our devices, phones, computers, even your smart TV, so there's no excuse for you to not be using it. Protect your online activity today with the VPN rated #1 by Business Insider. Visit my exclusive link, expressvpn.com/freshfit, and you can get an extra 3 months free on a 1-year package. That's expressvpn.com/freshfit. One more time, expressvpn.com/freshfit to learn more.
All right.
All right, we're back. Sorry, guys. I recorded that when I was half asleep. So anyway, going back. Yeah, L ad read. So Kris, you're discussing before your issues with socialist / communist states, which I agree with you. Can you tell the people why these types of states typically fail, especially for entrepreneurs?
Well, first of all, I lived in one for 2 years, and I'm just going to tell you, the people, they're very unhappy. And right now we're sitting in the middle of a mental health crisis in this country. And do I think there's a link between what happened during the pandemic and how people are at today and how socialistic we're becoming, and that level of suicide rates that are up with the anxiety and the depression, the sadness, the everything? Yeah, I think that's actually a huge contributor. I just had a hard time meeting anyone that was happy and hopeful because someone else was running their life, someone else was making their decisions, and their freedoms were so limited. The people gave it up because they got Medicare. They gave it up because they had someone, because they would get checks from the government, and it's such a small, puny amount. And so I witnessed it and I saw it, and I just thought, man, like the government might be able to control its people, but find out if the people themselves are really happy. And I just didn't see that. And I don't think that's what we're going to experience in this country. My father's a German immigrant, came across the waters from this country, met my mom, had 9 kids, crazy big Mormon family. I'm number 4. And, my father came here for freedom. Yeah. And freedom, I think is synonymous also with capitalism, free market. And so I love tracking the stats of what capitalism has done, how it has been eradicating diseases, eradicating poverty. Poverty in 1950 was 64% of the planet. And today it's under 10%. We are within probably 2 decades of solving our poverty crisis based on the way that the UN defines it. And if we risk losing capitalism, I think that we're going to move in the wrong direction.
Yeah. And I agree. Real quick, Kris, we're going to kill, or Aaron, and that's my producer. He has 2 names that no one knows. But yeah, we'll kill Facebook, Twitch, and Twitter. We're going to stay on Facebook, guys. On YouTube. So guys, what I want to say is, because with capitalism, I agree with you on this, capitalism forces people to actually compete, and freedom of market, creates competition. When you create competition, well, it forces people to be on their A game. And unfortunately, when you have socialist societies, communist societies, where everyone is getting pretty much the same, it de-incentivizes entrepreneurs, people that want to, get out there and become a somebody, to actually compete. Because it's like, why should I if I'm not going to, get the fruits of my labor?
Yeah.
So
that's why they leave.
Yeah. You look at somewhere like Cuba, et cetera, a lot of their biggest entrepreneurs left and came to places like Miami, et cetera, because they're able to run their business unhindered versus having the government take all their profits.
Yeah.
Right. So
three months ago, I was in Ukraine, and we were on a rescue mission with Alpha Team, literally all the way in the east. And we were in Donetsk region, highly disputed area. And we were working on getting 12 people out literally from the crossfire. And as we were in there pulling people out, I asked myself, why are they still here? Like, they knew this was coming and knocking on their door. And the Ukrainian people, in their lifetime, it's not like in America where we won our freedom, a couple hundred years ago, and we consider ourselves fairly patriotic. The Ukrainians, they won it in their lifetime. They remember what it was like to go from communism to a democracy. And I think one of the reasons why our foundation is doing everything we can to help the people there is because they're up against a terrible enemy that wants to take everything back and put them back in that zone. And they know what freedom tastes like. They're willing to die. That's what they're doing. They're willing to die for their freedom. And I believe that that's the freedom that we got to be fighting for in this country that is currently potentially slipping through our fingers.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure, man. And you can see it with other places, right? No offense to my Canadian brothers out there, but you could see it right now under Toronto, right? Toronto was locked down some of the longest periods of time during the pandemic. Melbourne, Australia, same thing. We had Chesbro in the house. He was talking about how the pandemic had them shut down for a while. So yeah, I mean, it just doesn't work.
Get some chats here.
Yeah, okay. So I'll read some of these chats, and I got another question for you, Kris, here. Marriage cause divorce goes Friday. Oh no, that was from before. Marriage is like real estate investment for women. They can sell the guy at least 50% equity and collect child support and alimony like rent, right? Marriage cause divorce. All right, then we got here Gobarto Sango. Shout out to FNF teaching people how to do better. Question: should I focus my efforts on paying off my car note, or should I make the regular payments and save the funds for real estate? What do you think on that, Kris?
It's such a good question. I think it comes down to interest rate. Like, for example, let's just assume that you've got really favorable terms on your student loan debt or on your car, and we're talking about your 3, 4, 5, 6, 7%. That's not the same as a credit card that's eating you alive at 21, 25, or 28%.
Yeah.
And so for the most part, when someone begins having debts that are costing more than 10%, I like to prioritize paying off the debt.
Yeah.
But if they're single digit, I would rather, if I can, save the money and set it aside, because my investments are designed to eliminate my debts. And so a lot of people, if they go the Ramsey route and it's just pay everything off, then you wake up one day 9 years later or 19 years later, I did it. I'm debt free. And I'm just sitting there saying, you lost all this time.
Yeah.
That money that you saved at superior ROIs could have gotten you out of debt in a flinch by comparison, and could have done so much more. So it's a great question. It just depends on the interest rate.
That's
Nice.
a good point. Because if you bought a home in 2020,
Yeah.
right? Like I got some homes that I bought with a 3% interest rate. I'm not refinancing those. Like I'm just gonna let it sit there because like I basically got the money for free. So, opportunity does knock sometimes where you have to take it where it's like, okay, I'm getting this interest rate at a ridiculously low rate. I won't get this again.
And let's say you pay off a debt, that's it. The debt's paid off, but the money you could have put into our asset that could pay you for the rest of your life is gone.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it's really a game of opportunity cost,
Yeah.
which just basically means, what am I foregoing with the choice that I'm making? Well, I just got the student loan and I really want to get it paid off. And even though it's like locked in at 3%, I just can't feel good until it's paid off. And I'm like, okay, first of all, that's not a financial decision. That's an emotional decision. And when it comes to finance, don't be emotional. There's a place for emotion. That's in your mindset, not in your finances. And so there's a lot of people that before they have money, they haven't learned these rules. I put on an event last week. I had an event all week. And what I do for 4 days is it's called Unleash Your Financial Destiny. And during that 4-day event, I teach people how to become a billionaire. And along the way, I teach them the psychology of building wealth. And it's about becoming an attractive personality, a charismatic person, getting out of your shell, stop being shy, and casting off the limiting beliefs that lead to excuses that keep us from doing the things that we need to, because making money is predominantly psychological before it's financial. But when you do make a financial choice, it should be made on data, facts, math, numbers, not feelings. Save the feelings for the positive mental fortitude to get you through the hard times.
I like it.
nice.
He says, when does this is from him, Holland. He goes, when does commuting outweigh working local? I mean, you got to prioritize your time, my friend.
Yeah.
Albo Ace goes, bro, these feminists are mad as fuck about DiCaprio banging 19-year-old model and are calling him a predator now. Yeah, they're going to hate, bro. Chris, your videos inspired me. I hope to soon enter a real estate journey, bro. This is the episode to watch. Can a lower level investor profit off of REITs?
So for the most part, the majority of REITs that I've looked at, their waterfalls, meaning the way that they cut up the money, ends up favoring them enough where sometimes you're just stuck more at the single digit game. And frankly, what the REITs are doing is they are presenting a model that you've been habituated to. They know that you're getting 4 and 5%. So if they can present 7 or 8 or 9, they know you're going to be stoked. If they can present 12, you're going to be mad out of your mind. And meanwhile, I'm just like, oh man, there's a whole lot of money being left on the table if you be your own investor. So my only competition really is REITs. And when people partner with me, I want to treat them like a partner and say, hey, we're actually going to do this together. We're going to split this 50-50, and we're going to keep multiplying the ROI until there's millions and millions of dollars. And that's not really the way a REIT is designed to work. They're designed to say, we're going to give you preferential treatment on a certain amount of ROI comparable to the market, maybe a bump above. But then once we start making crazy money, the lion's share is going to flip, and it'll be 20-80 you, now 80-20 us.
Yeah.
And so I think it's fake investing.
And that's a controversial take, but my thing with REITs is I agree with you, man. Basically, hey, we'll give you 7, 8, 9%. We'll give you a little bit more over the rest of the stock market. You can feel like a real estate investor, even though you're really not. And you can go ahead and say, oh yeah, I'm in REITs, so I'm getting a better ROI. But the reality is, if you had just taken that money you invested in REITs, saved it, bought a real property, you would have got, like you said before, the 20, 30, and you would have got the tax benefits. I mean, do REITs give tax benefits?
Everything. So they're foregoing too much, I think, by taking that route.
And people are so scared, right? The other thing too that a lot of like these people that peddle REITs say is like, oh, you don't have to deal with tenants and toilets. Well, here's the thing. You don't have to deal with tenants and toilets as an investor either if you have a property manager. Having a property manager is not that expensive, guys, but they're not going to tell you that because they're trying to sell you on the dream of invest in this REIT. It's completely passive income. You don't have to worry about anything. But the reality is that money that you would have made for REITs, well, you can spend less on a property manager.
And I actually got an entire document. 1 second here. I've got a full report on my last 3,000 homes. It's called Krohn Consortium, and it's where I actually show people exactly where to buy, and how to have someone manage the whole thing. And it's that's actually free on that same link that we gave out earlier today, freewealthgift.com.
Okay.
If anyone goes there,
put that at the top of the description for Kris, by the way, freewealthgift.com.
Yeah, freewealthgift.com. And what it'll do is you'll click on the partner consultation and it'll give you free access to that document, or you can read my book that will show you exactly how to do it. I even have a free ticket to one of my upcoming events, people pay $1,000 for, if that's useful as well.
Bam.
Nice.
And you guys, the book, have it all. I read it. Fantastic book, which I actually have a question on that here after we finish these chats. Where we at, Kris? Or Aaron in this case, so I don't confuse you. Evan F. and Kris, my question to you, can you tell me the price range of the house I can buy with a yearly salary and money in the bank? Example, 10 saved by what?
30 years?
No, okay, we'll answer that here in a second. Don't worry. I think I understand what he's trying to say there. Thank you for providing so much value. Thoughts on taking out a Heloc on your primary residence to begin acquiring rental properties? Should I be concerned with being over leveraged? That's a good question.
Being over leveraged.
Yeah,
Everyone, I think that is such an abused term. First of all, do I believe in taking out a home equity line of credit on your house to put your money to work? Yeah. It depends on, like, if you can get one, it means that, first of all, the bank will only let you go up to 80% LTV. That means they want to keep a 20% equity position for their collateralized position to feel safe if the market goes up or down a little bit. And so let's say we have someone with a $300,000 house that's half paid off. So 80% of that will take you up to 240. There's a $90,000 home equity line of credit you can get, and it's called arbitrage. A French economist, J.B. Shea of the 1800s, said that creating wealth is just moving from low yields to high yields.
Damn.
So if I can borrow my Heloc at 6, 7, 8%, and I can put it in something earning 20, 30, 40%, when I do that, all day long, sometimes I feel like all I do is I'm borrowing this money at 5 and I'm earning 15. I borrow this money at 8 and I'm earning 80. And all I'm doing is making the money in the middle. That's why I want everyone to think ROI and not just get caught up on strategy. By the way, this is the document you'll find on that link that shares the whole strategy. And then it also includes several thousand actual addresses that you can look up on Google Maps and see my properties, so that it gives you an idea to see exactly how that strategy plays out. But what we're doing is I'm really just showing you how to control money. It's weird. We like to own things, and the cost of ownership is expensive.
Yeah.
In my world, I really don't like to own stuff. I like to control money. If I can control the supply and have it perform for me, it's its performance that I'm interested in, instead of, again, that emotional feeling of like, well, this is my cabin, I own it. Then I bought it because I Airbnb it, and it's a poor area for Airbnb, so I actually lose money on it, but then I get to use it whenever I want when it's not Airbnb, and I'm like, cool, dumb choice. How about you go buy a real property that will perform Airbnb at a professional level, take your profits, and just stay wherever you want around the world whenever you want to go there. But we don't think that way because we have a hard time separating the emotion from the facts of life. ROI.
You made a really important distinction there, which I tell people all the time. The beauty of, using a bank to purchase a home is that you're able to control the asset with putting a percentage of the property's value down. You go ahead and you put, whether it's 3.5% down on a, FHA or 20 to 25% down as an investor. The point is you're using as little of your own capital as possible to control the asset. And that's a big deal because you're able to get all the tax benefits as if you bought it 100%. You're able to get the cash flow. You're able to enjoy the appreciation, the things that we talked about before. And I think when people have this mindset where I'm controlling the asset versus owning the asset, that's a big difference and a very important mental thing that a lot of people get into the investor mindset being on the consumer mindset. And the other thing too, I was going to ask, can you talk about the differences between a home equity line of credit, aka a Heloc, versus a cash out refinance? The difference between the two, the plus and negatives, and what should people be looking to do from an investor standpoint?
In your opinion.
In your opinion.
All right. So let's just say for a moment, someone's listening and they're like, I've worked my butt off and I have a paid off house. It's worth $300,000. And if I get a home equity line of credit, I can go up to 80% of the value. And the line of credit means if I use it, I pay. And if I don't, it's like a credit card, then I don't have to pay anything. So here you go with the 240, basically a $250,000 line of credit. In scenario B, someone says, you know what? I'm just going to go and take out up to 80% on a cash out refinance and have $250,000 in the bank. Well, here's the difference. When it is on a revolving line of credit, like a home equity line, then you're only paying what you're using. Once you take it out, you're paying on every penny of it. So now let's create a real scenario. Someone says, I want to buy an investment property. Let's say I want to buy 3.
Yeah.
And it turns out that I need 200 grand to buy the 3. The person with the Heloc who has a line of credit up to 240,000 will use only what they need, $200,000 to buy their 3 homes, and they'll only be making payments on those 3. The person that did a cash out refinance pulled out all $240,000, but only needed 200,000 of it. So the other 40,000 is charging interest, and it's literally sitting on the sideline doing nothing. Here's what I recommend people do. Get a Heloc. It's free. Go to 2 different credit unions because they'll value your house differently. Go with the one that will offer you a higher amount of money and have that line of credit and go make your investments. Only use what you need. Then once you've made them, then do what's called a rate and term refinance. And all you're doing is locking in a low rate or today's rate. If you think the rates are going to go up, then you lock it in and you'll have a lower payment than the person that actually just took it all out without knowing exactly the amount that they're going to need. That was inefficient.
Bam.
Nice.
Fantastic point. Now, as far as would it be free if it was an investment property? Because, you know, getting a HELOC on your primary residence is a lot easier than doing it on an investment property.
Yeah, you can't get a HELOC actually on an investment property. You're forced to do really a cash out refinance in that scenario.
Yeah, it's very difficult.
Which is why sometimes I do a cash out, but sometimes I just like, hey, it's time to sell. I'm going to do a 1031 exchange. That is an IRS tax code that allows me to take all of my gains, and instead of paying taxes, no capital gains, I'm going to roll it into more like-kind property. So I just skip taxes by deferring it, and then I get more cash flow, depreciate the property, and pay no taxes on the cash flow, plus get leftover depreciation that I apply to my normal income so that I'm even paying less taxes again.
Bam. This is how the wealthy stay wealthy, guys. We're giving you a lot of sauce. Like the video, man. Because I think a big mistake that a lot of people make is they'll get that home equity line of credit or they'll get that cash out refinance and they'll quite frankly do a bunch of stupid stuff with it. They'll go buy a car, they'll go buy a liability, they'll go on a vacation or whatever, which is the worst thing you do. If you're going to get a HELOC, guys, you need to use it to go ahead and get yourself another asset. And as far as like getting a HELOC for investment properties, I have seen some banks that do it, but yeah, it's a lot harder. It's hard to get approved. It's expensive. They typically charge you a fee just to keep the HELOC open when it's an investment property, because I guess the banks look at it as riskier since it's a investment property versus not your primary residence. But you can't do it, guys. But yeah, in that case, you might have to do the cash out refi instead. Cool. And then where we at, Kris, with the super chats? Okay. Showing some support. Always enjoy this type of content. You guys always provide value, help make men better financially. This is awesome. I got a couple of my coworkers watching this live right now. And this from Uncle Luke 1980. Yeah, guys, I'm excited for this interview. I told y'all we're going to bring out the heat. I don't play games. Love the convo. I'm lost with the terms. Is there a book I can read? Yes. Go ahead and get his book.
Freewealthgift.com.
Yeah, freewealthgift.com. He has all the stuff there, and he's going to give it to you guys for free, man. Thank you, guys. I'm in the gym right now, and every day 7 sets of 7. Thanks for everything. I won't be living up to the name for long. And that's from Broke from Smoke. All right, good. And then Sloan Fidel goes, Myron and Fresh, I love you guys. Donate thousands over a year. Stay in your lane. Limited dating, but not business and money. I'm keeping it light, but this is above your pay grade. That's why I got a special guest in the house, bro. Yeah, that's why we got a special guest in the house right now to help you out. So shut your mouth. Anyway, Kris, I got a question for you. This is the question that everyone is asking right now. Everyone in the real estate space, there's great debate over this. Some people say it's going to happen. Some people say it's not going to happen. Is a real estate market crash coming? And if so, what can the people do to prepare?
So first of all, I wish it was going to be a crash. That would be so good for all of my investors. But what we're doing right now, guys, is we're looking at a correction. And there's a big difference in a correction and a crash. Understand this. Right now, why did real estate post-pandemic just launch through the air? It's because we caught up to the missing homes. We were missing about 2 million homes in this country. And then everyone said, hey, it's a new world. I can now work from home. So guess what? We bumped that number up all the way up to 4.3 million demand for homes. And you understand basic supply and demand. When there's massive demand and little supply, the prices shoot north. And that's what happened. And it should keep doing that with the genuine 3.8 million missing homes, according to Pew. And so if you take a look at that, what we are on is we're on a sabbatical right now from the house prices going up because interest rates are going up fast enough where watch this. KB Homes, one of the largest builders in the country, had 76% of its buyers that had homes for build under contract walk away from their contract. They had put a small down payment. They decided not to complete the project. Why? Because in that year that the house finally got built, they didn't want to actually go to permanent financing. They walked from it because their mortgage was going to be $800, $1,300 higher than they originally agreed. So high interest rates is stalling everything out, because if the government can't control its inflation and it goes hyper, well, first of all, you're just going to have one prayer that you owned a lot more real estate. But other than that, the rest of the country is just going to be, it's going to be sad. Think about this. I got $50,000.
Yep.
And let's just say that we have 10% erosion on our money, because we're sitting at 7, we could hit 10. Well, that's just easy math. I lose 5 of my $50,000 each year.
Yeah.
And so it's like, how many years does it take before I've lost half of my money? Well, it takes about 5-6 years.
Yeah.
And so the government is doing their best to control it. I don't know why they just passed another $1.7 trillion bill for a lot of money that doesn't benefit this country. It's almost like they think they can keep printing more without repercussion. And if you ask Biden, Biden is like, printing money has led to inflation. No, that's misinformation. I'm like, you idiots. Like, come on, people are so stupid. Please tell me they're not believing that joke of a lie. And so as long as we keep printing money to solve our problems, and now at a $31 trillion debt ceiling with so much of our GDP going to service the debt, we're in scary times. Someone has to take back control of the country and actually be fiscally responsible, instead of saying, I can spend whatever I want and the next president has to pay for it. That's us, not them. We're paying for those crimes.
Yeah.
And so we have to fix the inflation. The only way they can do that is by increasing the interest rate. So we're on sabbatical. And until they lower interest rates to stop fighting against the inflation, you're going to see a pause on homes, and that will be a correction in certain markets. Right now, Zillow for the next 12 months says that correction is estimated to be minus 0.7%. Now, you take a look at that. A percent on the median is basically saying that we're going to go down $3,000.
Yeah.
So basically, everything is holding its value. But I'll tell you what, the moment those rates drop, it is going to be crazy, and prices are going to skyrocket, and they will until we have a correction of the millions of homes that we're missing in this country because we're not building them fast enough.
See, and that's something that I've been telling people for the longest, because people keep telling me, Myron, you tell people invest in real estate, market's going to crash, should I wait, blah, 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 blah. And I tell them, simply put, supply and demand, there aren't enough homes, period. So therefore, a crash cannot happen. And for all the people out there, well, what about 2008? The reason why we crashed in 2008 is because there was an abundance of homes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like there was the market was literally flooded with homes. So therefore, not only did we have an inventory oversupply, but then we also were giving out loans to anyone was getting a loan.
Yeah.
Like if you had a heartbeat, we'll give you a loan.
Yeah.
So like I guess the factors that were in place back in 2008 that allowed for the market crash to happen are no longer there. So people that keep saying there's going to be a market crash, it's like for real estate, it's impossible.
Yeah.
There's not enough homes. So,
well, and even when you actually track not just nationwide, but the individual markets, like for example, take Florida market that I'm in. Once we get within 100,000 homes of demand, I'll be exiting Florida. Why? Because prices will be skyrocketing, and people are going to say, Kris, what are you doing? Don't you see the market going up like crazy? And I'll say, yeah, I already made $150,000 on every one of my homes. You are going to make the last 30 to 50 grand before the market crashes. Good luck. Yeah. So the skeptics get involved. The neighbors become investors. Everyone's doing spec builds. And that's because you got to play the game counter-cyclically. Right now we have a supply problem. And what am I doing? I'm buying up as much as I possibly can. That's what 2008 taught.
Yeah. And also, Kris, you were mentioning that we have a supply issue about almost somewhere between 4 to 5 million homes we're short in the United States right now. When would you predict that we will come back to a position where we're no longer a home housing?
Honestly, I've been doing that math, and at the rate that we're building, we could be in this predicament anywhere from 8 to 14 years.
8 to 14 years. Okay.
Wow.
And now I know somebody on the audience like, whoa, hold on, wait, 8 to 14 years for the housing shortage to stop? Well, you guys got to use a little bit of common sense. You got to remember, right? We got a conflict right now in Ukraine,
yeah,
and Russia, right? Lumber. The price of materials to build a home are very expensive
Sky
now.
high.
So you got to look at the developers. What are they prioritizing? Well, quite frankly, they're prioritizing commercial.
Commercial.
They're prioritizing deals that are going to make them a lot more money versus building single family homes. I mean, is it profitable to build a single family home when you can go ahead and take your people and go build an apartment complex instead? I don't know. And I mean, what's your thoughts on that, Kris, as far as like the developers prioritizing commercial versus single family residential?
If you take a look at the fact that the hedge funds want to own our real estate, they're leaning heavily in both single and multifamily. Here's a scary vision of the future of 2030. You own nothing. The Gen Zers own nothing. They don't want to own anything. Everything is a service. Cars are a service. Houses are a service. Everything is a service. And ultimately, that's how you completely control human beings. And so one of the ways to fight for your freedom is to make sure that you actually, I think we actually have to go back to more of an original vision of what, what it meant to have the American dream. Because if you take a look at 2 generations ago, this up and coming generation, our millennial generation, have 5 times less money at this age than 2 generations prior. And that is moving in a direction where the gap between the rich and the poor, it is widening more and more. And you know what? Don't blame the rich people. Blame the poor people. Like, you're the ones that are getting suckered into the government's free money and the government's free programs. And every time you say, yes, pay off my student debt, I don't want to take responsibility for that. What you're doing is you're learning to basically say, I'm relying on the government for everything. That is how we are being lulled right now into a very sleepy future with a lot of sleepwalkers. Mediocrity will reign supreme. And of course, the rich will be the richest. The gap will be the worst it's ever been. But it's for no reason other than I'm going to call it lazy. It's not we're past the information age. We're in the entertainment age. We have all the information from the people that you want to be entertained by. And so there's no confusion on why you're fat. Everyone knows how to lose weight. It's like, you don't need a special program. Get your ass to the gym, work out, and eat healthy food. It's called vegetables and protein. Like, duh. If you're still fat, and by the way, obesity's on the rise. Who are we going to blame for this one? Well, it's just we're lacking discipline. And you know what? This is the weakest generation we've ever had. And people are going to have to figure out how to literally step up and take control of their life. Take control of your finances, take control of your health, and take control of your relationships. Step out of victimhood and don't rely on a government to do everything for you.
Kris, you mentioned control, brother. That's what they're doing right now. Controlling the people's minds, where they live at, food, till it's only a matter of time.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's true, man. I mean, I was born in 1990 and I thank God I was watching content on how to invest, etc. But a lot of people in my age group, a lot of people that are younger than me, they don't even understand these concepts. They think, oh yeah, the government's just going to come and save me and I want a handout and all this other stuff. And they don't understand that like you said before, 2 generations before, a man was able to support his family on one income. Those days are done. Like it's very difficult to support a family on one income unless you're making, well into the 6 figures at this point.
Yeah.
And in a lot of places in the United States, right? There's some states you might be able to get away with a single income with the average income, which is, $50K per year, 30 to $50K per year, maybe in Alabama, whatever. But you want to live somewhere where most Americans want to be, a major city, whatever. You can't do it anymore.
Middle class?
Yeah.
That's a joke now.
Yeah.
Class is poor.
You mentioned different markets, Kris, as far as like where you're investing, et cetera, with the fluctuations of real estate. What are the top 4 hottest markets in your opinion where you're looking at, and the top 4 overrated markets that people should not look at?
So let's just start by talking about New York and California. These 2 states lost 600,000 people last year. And guess where a majority of them went? They went to the coastlines of Texas and they went to Florida.
Yep.
So basically people are shifting from those really expensive markets. And thank you, California, for wanting to impose a wealth tax, saying if you leave, we still get you money. Like, you guys are so crazy. You guys lead the charge of crazy. So Florida's a very, very heavy growth market. Its numbers are very, very supportive for what it looks like in the future growing up. And then I have some cash flow markets. I'm really loving right now, Arkansas, Memphis, Tennessee, Ohio, Akron. In those areas, there's sub-markets where we are just stabilized at a solid 30 to 35% every year on our money. Mm-hmm. And so those markets are simply about all of the economics of what's occurring. It's the businesses that are there. It's so it's the strength of the rental market as well as just the strength of the population and migration. Because remember, real consistent growth really does come down to watching the migratory and the population trends for an area. People love Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're down here in Miami. I've raised the rent on most of my properties. I have 4 down here in Miami. And yeah, I mean, the New Yorkers that come down here, the Californians, people from the Massachusetts, the Northeast in general, where it's more expensive, the blue states, I hate to say it like that, but essentially people are coming here from the blue states because it's cheaper, and I've been able to raise the rents. Of course, right, the markets also went up, the houses have went up, and most of my houses have went up, almost 100K in appreciation. But I think Florida is a great market, and honestly, it seems like the entire state, whether it's the Orlando area, South Florida, the Tampa area, more up north, it's a W all the way. But you also mentioned some other interesting places. You said Memphis, Tennessee, Akron, Ohio, Arkansas. Why you said are those places like big for migration, or is there just like stable companies there that people can be employed at? Why those locations?
Yeah, so those aren't high growth markets. Those are really high cash flow markets. This is a weird phenomenon in real estate that people don't really get. Depending on the area and the cost of living for an area, you've got the price of real estate and then the amount of rent that you can demand.
Wow.
And some people, let's take an extreme. In San Diego, I can rent a $2 million house for $3,500 a month.
Yeah.
Go get a mortgage for $2 million, have an $18,000 a month payment, and show me that $3,500 of rent is going to offset that. It doesn't work.
Trash.
But on the opposite of hardcore rental markets, you've got markets where it is the opposite, and they have an extraordinary high amount of rent rate for purchase price. And I target those markets because that is actually where I pick up higher cash flow.
Bam.
Nice.
And would it be fair to say that these are the places you're picking up these homes at that 250K price point that you were discussing earlier?
Yeah, and not only that, but I center in on an area. Like, for example, my strategy doesn't say buy in Florida. I buy in certain sub areas of Florida, like, for example, in the Orlando market. Why? Well, when I specialize in an area, what I want to have big brother bulk. And what that means is I go to a property manager, I find a mid-level size one, not the big boys and not mom and pop shop. I find one that has 400 or 500 homes. And then I go buy 500 homes and give them 500 homes. And now all of a sudden I'm half of their business. And in exchange, I say, good, now you're going to charge me 6 or 8% instead of 10%. And they'll say yes. And then I say, I'm going to have my team watch as a hawk all of your repair costs and fees. And you contractually are not able to rate me financially on any of those. And what it ends up meaning in the bulk game is that even though I have a partner that lives in Dubai, and I got a partner that lives in Idaho, and a partner in Texas, and one in Hawaii, and they're just part of all of these homes, even though they have individual ownership with me in our partnerships, I treat all of them like, hey, if I'm the manager, I'm the only client you have. And as a result, I can demand the kind of results that you can't normally get from out-of-state property management. So I really like to go into the area, study the macro, then dive deep into the micro, and then I set it up where I'm going to own these neighborhoods, because then I get a high degree of control on everything from rehab costs being much lower. I mean, on average, I save about $8,000 per home on the 342 hours we put in upon acquisition, because we do things in bulk. That means that I can get my carpet from China and put it in all of my homes that are all in a certain area. And basically, I pick up an extra percent here, 2% here, 3% here. And it's taken... it's taken 15 years to go from a 25% baseline ROI to ratchet it up to 34%. And these are the tiny little screws that make up the difference.
Man, you're literally taking like a Costco type mindset into real estate investing. Very interesting how you're able to kind of corner the market and put yourself in a power position with the property management companies. Like, hey, I'm half your business. Give me a better rate, right? And they honestly have to concede to some degree, because you can go ahead and go to another management company and they'll do it, So, okay. And then what are the 4 worst markets that people should probably stay away from at this point that are overhyped? Maybe people were like, I'm going to get in here. Now they're like, oh no, this is a bad move.
First of all, you got to stay away from the West Coast. I mean, what's happened in liberal Washington all the way down through Portland and California, I mean, the politics make them very unattractive markets. Like, I can't even hire employees in those states. My accounting firm has said, Kris, there are 19 states you can't even hire people in because of the nightmare nightmare employment laws. And that certainly bleeds in and affects the real estate side. So I'm originally from Seattle, Washington. I think it's the most beautiful state. I think it's heinous what's happened in the last 5 years there, or the fact that I can walk into any supermarket in California and steal up to $950 without getting in trouble. It's asinine. So please don't like, all of those things matter. Similarly, in these low-end markets that are deeply on the rise, my average tenant makes $60,000 a year. You want to just save your bacon? Here's a tiny little tip. $60,000 on up represents a type of tenant that will actually honor and take care of the property and won't tear it up. If you have entry-level homes and you're, making, you're allowing someone at 30, 40, 50,000 to get in there, you're going to pay a hefty price for that when it comes to your repairs upon turnover. So I'm staying away from the West Coast. And then honestly, a lot of the blue states on the East Coast, anything where by the way, if the nationwide median is supposed to be called 290, 300, I will never invest in a market where the median is above that. That's not 4 states. That's like 15 of the top states. So I just won't go into those places, because here's what I'm doing. Think about it this way. How cool would it be if we could like time machine back to San Diego 1970s and buy property? That would be awesome. That would be dope.
Right? Awesome. Yeah. In the 1970s. Yeah.
Well, guess what? That was the migratory, destination for 20 years that actually took its prices up to over $1 million. San Diego, 1.1 million. Are you kidding me for that median? Well, the same thing will happen in Florida. So what am I doing? I'm buying up as much real estate in Florida as I can, and I'm going to sit on it for 5 to 10 years. And as that median goes 300, 400, 500, I'm going to bail, because I've got rules. Buy below the median in your area, but the median in the area should be below the national median. If it's above, you got to go out of state.
And that number, one more time for the people, is you said the median right now nationally is 400K, and then you like to be at 290, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah. So first of all, while the median's at 400, there's going to be a catch-up period. The real median I'm tracking is $290,000, $300,000. And I'm buying at 250, 230, 220. So I actually usually like to buy 20, 25% below what the median should be. So I've got to run all my own numbers in this crazy economy, because that's what's keeping me safe.
Gotcha. So you're buying about 25% below. And like you said before, the analogy you gave is when you do hit that bump in the road, whether it's a market crash or the economic downturn, whatever, it doesn't affect you. It's like, okay, just a little bump. Cool. Because I bought it so below, it doesn't matter anymore.
We just got to keep renting and collecting our rents. In fact, we will raise our rents. I mean, how is this? It's a holding strategy after all. Like, we good.
Yeah. And that's another thing too. I tell people when they're so worried about, should I buy real estate right now? What if the market crashes, whatever? I always tell them, if the market crashes and you're a landlord, that's fantastic for you, because what's the first thing that people can't do when the market crashes? Buy a home. So they have to rent. Who do they rent from? You. So it's a W regardless whether the market crashes or not. But so many people are focused on appreciation and, I want to be able to sell my home. I look at it like, if you're buying and holding for a period of time, it doesn't matter if the market crashes, because you're not selling anyway, and you can hold on to it longer.
Even in Florida, occupancy rate is like 3%.
Yeah.
I had a tenant that wanted to leave. I said, you know what? I'm gonna raise the rents so he can leave.
Yeah.
He didn't want to leave because he has nowhere else to go.
Yeah. So it really, when you're a landlord, you're in a powerful position a lot of the times. Real quick. So you said, so West Coast is bad. Where else should people not? You said blue states where the median is significantly higher than.
And honestly, the best rule that I can give everyone, because I mean, we can talk about New York and we can talk about Boston and all that, but the reality is those are markets where they are already above that national median. And so I'm not going to touch them anyway. Then you have to be aware of some other markets like Idaho. Like Idaho's a great example of a market. Just Google the most inflated markets. And right now, Idaho probably has like a 40 to 50% correction to get to where it is supposed to be, because they had massive supply demand issues. And so that's kind of a scary market. Even in northern Utah, Ogden area, there's problems up there. And so
Austin,
if I'm in a market,
is that one of those? Is Austin, Texas, one of these places also that, if I'm not mistaken, kind of went with, is a little overinflated right now?
I rank 324 markets nationwide, and their investors really like Texas, but Texas is a top 30 market. It's not a top 5 market. So it's really good. It's just not good enough for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Austin is very, this is the one place in Texas. I lived in Texas for several years. It's one place in Texas that I always tell people that's not, Austin isn't really Texas. If you want to get like an East Coast vibe, a very hipsterish vibe, very progressive blue type vibe in Texas, Austin is your place, but it's overpriced for what you're getting a lot of the times, right? You're better off in like maybe a San Antonio would give you a better ROI. You can even go up to New Braunfels or San Marcos, which is in the Austin area, which will probably give you a better ROI. Houston, I still think is good, right? You could buy a beautiful home for $300,000 in that area because Houston is such a big metropolitan area. But yeah, Austin in general, besides the traffic and the population explosion, but everyone's been going there, right? Because of California sucks, especially the tech people. What are your thoughts, Kris, real quick on Airbnb?
Well, I bought a whole bunch of them last year, in the $500,000 to $1.5 million price range. And Airbnb, if you can find the right market and you do the right research, focusing on a 20 to 40% cash on cash return is possible. Most rental real estate is going to give you more like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7%. So there's a way higher cash on cash. I love that about Airbnb, but you really have to do your research. And a lot of people don't know that the property management in Airbnb often charges like 20 or 30 or even sometimes 50% of the money for managing the whole process.
Wow.
So they make a crazy, I brought this beautiful property up at Sundance, Utah, and I was getting into building plans. It had a private bridge, private acreage. I mean, just one of the most beautiful, right up against National Forest. And that's Robert Redford's spot up there with the Sundance Film Festival. And then when I found out that property management company, there's one in the game for Airbnb and they're going to charge you 50%. It killed all of my numbers. So Airbnb is good. For me, my single family, I can scale to all of my partners around the world.
Yeah.
Airbnb is really a boutique type of game. I haven't figured out how to scale it. I can probably right now at scale by 15 to 25 properties a year. And so I don't know how to service that out. So what I end up doing is buy them. I put them in my private funds. I've got a private investors club, for people that like real estate, but they want to invest in private equity and other businesses that are really going places. And then I make it available there for like my specialty, because I got a lot of specialty projects where I've got a bridge fund that, pays out 15, 20% cash on cash. And I got a lot of really cool stuff, but I can't scale it. So I got to kind of put it in a really tiny model for just a small, couple hundred people, small groups.
Yeah. Airbnb is kind of a very niche market that I've noticed. Like, unless you're getting something pretty nice and luxurious where you can demand top dollar, it's very difficult to be profitable in the Airbnb game because you're going to have to buy in a sought after area, which typically is going to be more expensive. And then you're going to also have to charge quite a bit of money. And like you said, I didn't even know management fees were that high for running Airbnb. Then you're also very dependent upon, vacation, travelers and vacation markets. And that can always suck. Who knows if they'll lock us back down again? Next thing you know, you're not able to.
Well, and I think the scariest part about it is honestly the county. What happens if the county says, hey, we voted and we are no longer allowing short-term rentals, no STRs. And all of a sudden, if often an Airbnb is not an inexpensive property. People don't Airbnb $200,000 and $300,000 houses. They're Airbnb the nice stuff. So all of a sudden, you can't Airbnb that. You can't rent that to cover your expenses potentially. And all of a sudden, what was really profitable absolutely spanks you hard.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So what else was I going to say? Real quick. Taxes. I wanted to hit the taxes real quick here. Actually, no, I'll read these chats and then we'll get into the taxes and then we'll wrap this thing up. $20 Lamb. I appreciate that. And guys, like the video, man, because Kris been giving y'all so many much gems. Sauce, so much information on this podcast. You guys are probably gonna have to watch this one back. Hey, Kris, been a fan since 2020 from Chile. Here with rates and rent prices, we have little negative cash flow around 80 US to 130 US a month. Good appreciation, low vacancies. It's still a good business.
Honestly, if you're ever buying a property with a negative cash flow, I wouldn't. There's another property that's not, so don't.
Freshman changed my life. I was 320 last year at 32 years old. I went to the gym 2 times a day, 2-hour cardio at 4 a.m. and around 4 p.m. was lifting weights and did abs every day. 6 months later, I'm down to 190. Good stuff, my friend.
What's up?
Would it be smart to get a credit card 6 months before buying a home? Well, you got to build your credit up some way, man. But 6 months, an inquiry isn't going to mess you up that much. What they're really going to care about is your debt to income ratio. That's what they're going to worry about. Question is, getting an FHA loan for a primary residence for a year, then renting it out, a viable way to start into the real estate business? I say yes. What do you think, Kris?
That was my first house hack. I saved up $5,000 over 14 months. It was the hardest thing I ever did. Put $3,300 down as a 3% FHA on a piece of crap little bungalow with a basement apartment that I rented that paid the whole mortgage for me. And a year later, used the equity to buy my second home. The equity in my second home bought my third home. And then it was over. And so, 100% house hacking, super, super smart.
Thoughts on buying real estate near a university to make profit year by year, but I do not know where to begin or how can I have your advice? What are your thoughts on renting out to college kids, Kris?
I did it. I don't do it.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Most people don't do it.
Yeah, I got a house right next to the college kids, and I elected to not bring them in. It's a very, and I know some guys that do it successfully, but it's high turnover. Yes, you could demand more rent because you could charge by the room, but the headaches, them destroying your property, them throwing ragers,
It's risky because they throw parties in there. You know, they bring their friends over. They don't take care of it. I mean, they're in college, bro. They don't care about property.
Yeah.
Have fun. So.
Pretty much you're going to need to have like a team on deck every 6 to 8 months to come in and, you know, repaint everything, fix everything, because they're going to destroy the house, bro. There's no way around it 9 out of 10 times. Something we do with our HELOCs is turn ourselves into hard money lenders for other investors, 5 to 7% loan, reloan. That's 12% at least. That's from Osmosis. Okay, cool. All right. So question for you, Kris, as far as taxes go and real estate. Can you talk about some of the tax benefits and why people should seriously get into real estate for, if anything, let's just say the tax benefits?
100%. I'll give you two main reasons. The first one is when you start buying real estate, you own a business. And when you own a business, there's 250 different tax write-offs that you're now entitled to. All of a sudden you use your phone for real estate, write that off. You use part of your mileage of your vehicle, write that off. If it's leased, you can write off the entire thing. If you use a part of your house or your rental for doing your real estate, you can write off up to a certain percentage of that. There's 250 different write-offs. And so just having a business period starts that tax game winning in your favor. But now let's talk about real estate. And I'll give you a real world example here. I've got a pile of money here. I'm just going to pull this apart. I got $250,000. I'm going to buy this $250,000 home. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to rent it out. And let's just say that my positive cash flow is $400 a month. Okay. So 4 times 12, 4,800. It's basically $5,000 a year. Well, I get to write off this house at over 27 and a half years. So I'm just pulling up my calculator. Everyone should know how to do this basic math. I'm going to put in the value of the property, 250,000, and then I'm going to divide it by 27.5 because the government is saying this is what depreciation means. Hey, you've bought something that is going to break down over time, and it's complicated because the roof will break down different than the appliances and the carpet and the repaints. You know what? You can write off the whole structure over 27 and a half years. When I do that, the number that I get in my calculator is $9,090. Mm-hmm. Now, remember, my positive cash flow is $5,000 a year. Mm-hmm. Of the $9,000, $5,000, that means that my $5,000 cash flow is tax-free. Then I have $4,000 left over. What do I get to do with that? Oh, I make $80,000 a year. No, you don't. You don't make $80,000 a year. Now you make $76,000 a year. Wait. I don't have one home. I have 5 homes. Oh, well, now my $25,000 of positive cash flow is all tax-free. And I got $20,000 left over. Apply that to my $80,000 a year income. Now I only make $60,000. I just dropped into a lower tax bracket. Then I wrote off my part of my vehicle and my phone and my other stuff. And all of a sudden, now between that and I had a kid or two deduction, now my taxes are down to $30,000. You're at the poverty level. You don't have to pay a penny in taxes. And I got news for you. The first 7 years I invested in real estate, I paid nothing in taxes. And then I got too good at the game and needed to reinvent my tax strategies.
And Kris, you know what the scary part is? You bought those houses and you didn't even use all your money to buy them.
No. You want to? This is the crazy part. The crazy part, I won't even tell you the crazy part. I'll tell you the crazy part is I have such a track record on 6,500 homes that now every day someone calls into my company and says, "Hey, Krohn, I've watched like 1,000 of your videos. I got 100,000 in IRA. Can I partner with you?" We partner up. I put the 100,000 into real estate and we're 50-50 partners. They love this whole 50-50 game because I do 100% of the work. They're fully passive and I will grow their money faster in the best markets than anywhere else anyone else can. But I also get to share in 50% of the cash flow and 50% of the tax benefits. I don't have basis in the property, but because I'm a real estate professional, I get to write it off. That's helpful for a guy like me, by the way, because I have a fair share to pay in taxes, and real estate does a great job knocking that number down.
That's clever, man.
Guys, and you saw how he was able to write off all these things with taxes. And the crazy part is you're not even putting all your money in. You can put 3.5% down on a $100,000 house, but still that depreciation over 27 and a half years, man.
It's crazy. It's crazy. By the way, Biden did something kind of interesting. I guess that's a positive word for what he's done. Basically, he has like a first-time home buyer write-off right now where there's like up to I don't know if it's $15,000 or $20,000 on top of that you get to write off. It's kind of crazy right now. So yeah, I mean, real estate, like if you were to say, Kris, do you honestly think that everyone should own a business? And my answer is no. But if you were to say, Kris, do you think everyone should own real estate? The answer is yes. Everyone should. If you're a little bit financially literate, you are definitely 100% owning real estate. And again, if you're scared to do that, there's ways, there's people out there that you can partner with that can make this easy. That's what I do for all of my partners. And then what I do is my goal is to help them become worth 10, 20, 30, $50 million and beyond. And it's cool because they've got a partner that has $2 billion worth of real estate experience. And on their side, they get to focus on their career or their family or what they enjoy the most. But if someone wants to get really aggressive on their financial future, don't ignore private equity. That is the game that will change everything for you.
Damn. See, even Sleepy Joe wants you to buy a house, guys. I mean, and we didn't even talk about cost segregation, right? And that's a whole other thing where you're able to more aggressively write things off over a 5-year span, right? So, guys, and you can get upfront. Can we still take? I know Trump allowed it to happen. I don't know if it's still written in for this tax year, but can you still take up the full 100% of that first year over the 5?
Well, there's two things going on. First of all, for real estate, depreciation is different than the other depreciation rule that most people are talking about. So real estate, the depreciation works the same.
Yeah.
But when we're talking about heavy equipment, machinery, and other things you depreciate beyond real estate, last year they had 100% write-off rule on year one. So computers, equipment, machinery, jets, cars, things like that. Now they've dumped it to 80% of the value. So it's not bad, but they'll phase out 20% every year until we can maybe get a Republican president back, and then they'll probably revoke that whole stupid thing.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Damn. Well, man, we got down to Marco because this was a very informative episode, man. I don't want none of you guys like not investing in real estate after this one, man. You guys, we just gave y'all the blueprint. Kris, where can people find you, man?
Honestly, if anyone goes to freewealthgift.com, I got a bunch of free stuff for you, and that's a great place to start. But honestly, my name is spelled weird. It's Kris with a K, Krohn with a K. So if you literally go to whatever your favorite social media platform is, you're going to find me. I've got
put the website up.
We get millions of views on all of our social collectively every single week, and we're everywhere.
But you know what I like, Kris? Even if you get the advice, here's a follow-up. If you don't know what to do, work with me. I'll work with you. That's good.
Bam, and you're able to take people's money and help them invest it and probably get more back than they would on a REIT.
Yeah. Yes, and not a little.
way back more than a REIT. Oh, you know what? I had one more question. I got to ask one more. In your book, Have It All, which is a fantastic book, I think everybody needs to go ahead and read it. You talk about the different vehicles of wealth. Yeah. One of them, you talked about using a life insurance policy, right, to get real estate. Can you talk about that a little bit? Because guys, this is some next level stuff right here.
Yeah. So there are secrets of the wealthy that I just love sharing with everybody else. And in the book, I talk about the only single digit investment that I put my money into, which is not a 401k or IRA to perform at 5%. And then double digit is real estate. Triple digit is asymmetric ownership of companies that are publicly traded. Quadruple digit is owning your own business, and unlimited ROI is what happens when you have a track record and other people put their money into the money game. So you have an unlimited supply. So the first digit is like, okay, Kris, so you don't believe in single digits. So why do you park your money there? And what I have is what's called a life insurance bank account. It's a rare kind of policy. And what it is it is a high dividend paying early cash out policy that no insurance agent wants to sell you because it reduces their commissions to nothing. But it is the coolest thing on the planet for the wealthy, or those that want to become wealthy. Because here's what you do. Most important financial decision you're ever going to make in your life is how much you're going to set aside every month for investing. And so for someone, it's 100 a month, and for someone, it's 1,000 a month, and for some, it's 10,000 a month. That number is meant to grow as your investments mature and succeed. But in the beginning, if you're like me, you're poor, you got nothing. So you start with what you can. Well, you set up this life insurance bank account, and there's some weird stuff that happens. Let's just say that a person was saving $300 a month in a normal savings account, giving you 0.0 nothing % interest rate. Well, now you put it in your life insurance bank account, and here's what happens. It has, number one, a guaranteed ROI paid by state of 4%. Number two, it has dividends each year between 1 and 3%, on average 2. So I've got 4 guaranteed plus 2 in dividend. I'm now earning 6%. Benefit number 3, it's tax-free. So now I got 6% growing tax-free. The next benefit, I can borrow it whenever I want at 3%. And if I put it into real estate earning 25%, I'm now earning 25 plus 3, I'm earning 28. So my money is no longer in the account, and it's earning me money while it's sitting here, and it's velocitized, and my same dollar is sitting in 2 places at once. That's very cool. The next benefit, it does have a death benefit, which means if you die, all your business stuff hopefully then gets paid off and you don't stress your loved ones out. And there are a few other benefits, disability and this, that. But the last benefit, the money is untouchable. It's the one place the government will not touch your money. It is stronger than Fort Knox or a Swiss bank account because they say this is death benefit. This is for your family. So as much as we hate you or you scammed or hurt people or we want to litigate against you or take your tax money, you never paid us, you piece of all of that, we can't touch it because it's death benefit for the family. So all of a sudden I have an ironclad armored vehicle that no one can touch doing 6%. Tax-free, borrow whenever I want, earn money in multiple spins at the same time. And I got a death benefit and a disability benefit all included. So I stash my money there like many wealthy people. I learned this from a billionaire friend of mine. And then I stash it to pull it out and drop into my double, triple, and quadruple digit ROIs. And my book, if you pick it up on like Audible, I spent 3 days in studio recording it to make it an audio masterpiece and hated all 3 days of reading the book 3 times out loud back to back. But it's a great audio book if you prefer audio.
Yeah. And I listen to it on audio. I feel your pain because I'm actually recording my book right now as we speak, man. So I totally understand your pain. But guys, man, yeah, I'll tell you this. Bank of America ain't going to give you that type of benefit. Chase, all these big banks, right? TD Bank, they're not going to give you guys this stuff. And worse yet, they're not going to tell you about these benefits, man. Being able to go in and borrow that money virtually penalty-free at a small interest rate and being able to use it to invest in real estate. And if you get sued or anything else like that, they can't touch it, and it's tax-free, man.
And is that whole life?
It's pretty cool. I actually met with the president of one of my banks earlier today, just before lunch, before getting into the getting in studio. And I was just saying, can you please treat me like a high net worth guy and bend rules and make things easier and allow for easier POA? And, banks don't work that way. So I leverage life insurance like a bank, and then I pick up benefits like no bank can pay.
And Kris, is that whole life insurance?
It is a type of whole life. It is not universal.
Got it. Cool.
Bam. Guys, and it's in the book. He goes into detail about this if you guys want to check it out. Go get it. Kris, I don't know what to tell you, man. That was a great interview. One of my favorite. Yeah. The guys learned a lot, man. Now y'all know where I get a lot of my sauce from, man. Kris, I'll give you the last word, man. What's your last thoughts on that?
Your last thoughts. We've got this one life that we're aware of that we get to live. And if you want an amazing life, it's super simple. You just have to be a little better today than yesterday. So every day, go for some type of PB. When you're in the gym, wake up early, get your body there, and get your mind screwed on straight by listening to something really good. Get your heart screwed on straight with dropping your prayers. Get your body straight by making it do things it's never done before. So you wake up in the morning and you've got everything put together. Then in your relationships, it's possible for you to make your relationships a little bit better today than the day before. It's possible for you to make decisions that will make your finances a little stronger today than the day before. And as long as every day you meet the definition of nobility, better today than yesterday, you're going to crush it in life, because that's the real effect of compound interest that happens over a couple of decades, where you wake up one day and you're like, oh my gosh, I do have it all. How did I get here? Small, disciplined, incremental growth every single day. And it leads to ultimate freedom. Ultimate.
Bam.
Wow.
Guys. He is Kris Krohn. Check him out on YouTube, Instagram. I get a lot of my sauce from this guy. So you guys, you can go right to the source now. We'll be back here with After Hours with some lovely ladies, man. Kris, thank you so much for coming on the show, man. We hope to have you on again.
Guess.
Myron Fresh, appreciate you guys. Thank you.
All right, man. Later, guys. Take it easy. Peace.
I ran so far.